Come for our miles of pristine beaches and vibrant art scenes. Stay for our diverse cultural experiences. Plan your trip now, Miami and MiamiBeach.com. Welcome to the Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast. Our mission for the show is to support leaders who are climbing that ladder of success with warnings, practical tips, and techniques from leadership experts to highlight not just what it takes to be a leader in this age, but in the process, build your confidence to show up more powerfully in your role. I'm your host, Alicia Khoury, founder and CEO of Audacious Concepts, Inc., a boutique consulting firm providing audacious solutions to nagging and persistent people issues clogging the revenue pipeline of your organization. From optimizing talent to reducing conflict and improving communication, our brain science, people data tools, and expert coaching help you find the elegant solution to get the job done with more ease and less stress. Now, let's join in on the conversation. Welcome to this episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. I'm your host, Alicia Khoury, and on today's show, we're going to talk all about inclusion. So let me share with you my dynamic guest. His name is Dr. Nicholas Harvey, the Social Impact Coach. Nicholas is the principal and CEO, Chief Empowerment Officer of Nicholas Harvey Consulting, a strategic advisement and executive leadership development and management consulting practice committed to creating ready now leaders for a changing and diminishing workforce. As a social impact coach, he uses his public policy and nonprofit expertise to help corporate social justice leaders achieve their mission for positive change and justice. His work includes promoting leadership across sectors that facilitates inclusion by embracing, creating, and holding space for human difference and engendering equitable environments, systems, and structures for all, while achieving the operational goals of the enterprise through his program, Inclusionetics, the art and science of inclusive leadership. So we're going to talk about Inclusionetics. It's his trademark. So Dr. Nicholas Harvey, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you so very much. So glad to be here with you on today. Greetings to your audience as well.
So what is inclusive leadership right off the bat? Tell us what that is.
Yeah, when we talk about inclusive leadership, allow me to back up a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, we hear a lot of work going on now around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, so much of the work was rooted in this idea of diversity and diversity management, right? Mm-hmm. The idea that we need to bring different people, different types of people, usually demographically. And unfortunately, we're sort of like putting Skittles in the jar. It's like, oh, well, look at all this different colors that we have here, and won't it be better? And the answer is, no, it won't.
not organically like that. It's just not going to.
It's going to take some work. But the idea, again, was around diversity management. And also even the idea of diversity was largely around race and gender, coming out of the civil rights struggle of the 60s and the 70s. We understand about equal employment opportunity, and people seem to get on race and gender and they got stuck. And that's where all their activities and their measures were about. Well, we as human beings, we need more than that. Mm-hmm. And so when I talk about diversity, it's really about human difference. And that's the thing that we're really seeking to embrace. And so what then inclusion means is positively acknowledging this diversity or this human difference. And then you're able to take deliberate action to create the environments where everyone is respected and they're able to achieve their full potential.
Right.
So that's what we talk about in terms of inclusion. So then what then is inclusive leadership? It's the type of leadership that facilitates inclusion by embracing, creating, and holding space for human difference and engendering equitable environments, systems, and structures for all, as you said, while achieving the operational goals of the enterprise. There's been this disconnect over the years that the diversity, equity, inclusion work is separate from the operational goals or the mission or what the organization is about. What we do with inclusive leadership, we acknowledge that no, there must be a sense of alignment, and then that inclusion and the work that we're doing is as much a strategic enterprise as operations, IT, marketing, sales, and the like.
Right. It's funny because the reason I'm smiling is everybody sees this as an adjunct, an add-on, something separate.
Right.
And it's supposed to be inclusive. So just the word itself of inclusion,
right.
And it's supposed to be woven into the fabric of everything that you're doing, and not be this, oh, well, we have this initiative over here and it's a standalone thing that we're working on. I want to go just back to something that you talked about. You mentioned the civil rights and the idea of integration. You know, there was this attempt at integration without education, without allowing the space for it to happen. It was like forced onto communities and environments. And so when you're talking about inclusive leadership, it's not about forcing this idea of DEI and B, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, into an organization as a mandate. It's more around creating this space, as you said, holding the space for it to intentionally, right? You're holding the space, but you're intentionally creating opportunities for this environment to grow and flourish. Is that kind of in a nutshell what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, you're saying just so much, right now. So let me sort of cut to the chase here, if I may. What has to happen now is that we find that we're experiencing this diversity fatigue, right? And it's sort of funny that diversity fatigue is actually not a new term; it's actually 30 years old. So now I'm sort of dating myself a little bit.
That's okay.
We love
dates. We love dating ourselves over here.
the discipline and the practice. So this idea that even the suggestion of needing, a diversity initiative in your organization, it's triggering, right? And it creates resentment in many parts and resistance, and actually does more harm, all right, if it's not implemented properly, and it harms the underrepresented minorities that you hope to serve.
Yeah.
So what I'm having great fun doing now is, can we shift the narrative a little bit? Because there are these counter narratives that, oh, okay, this is just affirmative action on another thing. It's like, well, no, what we're seeking to do is to talk about, can we create, and again, more of things that I'm doing right now, a welcoming workplace where all can thrive, right? So when I'm offering my course, in welcoming workplace formula, that changed that. Who can argue with welcoming workplace?
Yes.
Right? Where all can thrive.
Yes.
So we get past the ideas of special treatment or, giving advantages to one group or another.
Over another, right.
Or even past
there's hostility that builds on the other end of that.
Right,
and we don't want, that's not an inclusive environment if you're creating hostility. Right.
And so we have yet to talk about the poorly implemented DEI initiatives in organizations. Someone was asking me, in the work, so who's your greatest competitor? I said it's Google. Because people will Google DEI and they think, I can be a DEI consultant. Or they'll ask, well, what's this definition of that? And they'll pull something from the internet, and it's sort of like, that won't work in this context. Okay. Case in point. People want to Google the difference between equity and equality, and they have the image where people standing on different boxes trying to see a baseball game. And so I'm doing a training right now, and my partner, for whatever reason, she felt she was being left out, so she had to sort of someone asked me the difference between equity and equality, and she says, well, I saw this and we had to do a debrief, because I'm like, you are not helping right now. Because in certain environments, people still see individuals getting advantages over other individuals. Mm-hmm. That is the assumption, in American society and culture, where we have this idea of meritocracy, mm-hmm. right? But what I then say is this. So we had our debrief, and I said, don't do that anymore. Okay, I've got this. What we then do is say, how about we explain the advantages of equity in terms of the curb cut effect that you see with the American with Disabilities Act, where for handicap access, that mm-hmm. you have a curb cut, right?
Right.
But a curb cut does not just benefit those, who are handicapped. It benefits the UPS and FedEx people. Mm-hmm. Ramps benefit because it provides access. Equity is about removing barriers to access. Mm-hmm. When we're able to do that and explain it that way, we have the insight to say, you know what, everybody in your organization is not in favor of this. So what then do we do to get people on board? Quit Googling, do the work, take the time, get appropriate training, not your $99 certificate online to say that you are now a DEI certified practitioner.
Right. Yes. And I had the question was, what are people getting wrong? What are leaders getting wrong when it comes to these initiatives and doing this? And that is a great explanation of that. But just this idea, it needs to shift. So the paradigm needs to shift in how people are looking at what equity means.
Sure. Oh, I think the whole thing needs to shift, because I think that one of the, especially coming out of, and I tell people, so I was with a group of young people, and I said, how old do you think that, diversity, work and the like is, just as a discipline? Mm-hmm. And I said, the hint is it's older than you and probably almost as old as me. So, right. We have been doing this work and failing successfully for over 50 years.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
We're failing successfully. And the challenge is, I think, back to your original point, is that it is something separate. So here's where I come at it. What was the impetus for this work? I always ask why. Because the impetus will then affect your implementation, mm-hmm. which then speaks to your impact. So if
whether or not people get the buy-in.
Well, for instance, why are you doing this? Well, we were sued.
Yeah. Oh, we don't want to get sued. We were close.
And so we don't want to get sued, or we don't want to get sued again.
Right.
So let's call Nicholas. And I'm like, friends, no. And you see the approaches. I even see it in terms of the people that they hire as their diversity vice presidents, or mm-hmm. the chief people officers and all that. So here's a hint to your listeners. If your organization hires a labor relations lawyer, you know what they're trying to do. Because it's sort of like we're
avoid being sued.
We're avoid getting sued, being sued again, and then we fall into that human resources compliance model.
Mm-hmm. And it's not about compliance. It should not. Let me say, it should not be about compliance. This is not a compliance issue.
It's not.
This is a human rights issue.
And even beyond that. And so again, I've been trying to say, should I do this? Maybe I should warn all my friends before you put this on. that the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging problem in your organization is not a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging problem. It is a leadership and organizational culture problem.
100%. And speaking of, all the ways that people try to do this, how can someone really recognize, you talk about, the why, understanding why, but how else can leaders recognize that the wheels are, on the proverbial bus are falling off? Like before they run all the way off, how can they start recognizing my DE&IB initiative is going off the rails?
Oh, sure. It's a lot easier than people really want to talk about. How about doing what's called management by walking around?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I do is I challenge leaders to have a conversation with 10 of your workers that you don't normally interact with and ask them the simple question:
Mm-hmm.
what does it cost to be you working here?
Ooh.
What does it cost you?
Now, you bring up another very important issue, which is psychological safety. Do they feel safe enough to answer that truthfully?
Yeah. And
Is
so
that
when you,
is the culture actually uh, open enough for that kind of vulnerability without feeling like I'm going to be now attacked or made an example of for saying what my experience is?
right, right. And it's sort of like, truthfully, I mean, I used to do that all the time. Even in relationships where people say, "So, Nicholas, what do you think about such and such?" I'm like, "Truthfully," and they actually came back with me and said, "No, lie to me." I'm
Lie
like,
to
"Oh,
me,
no, no."
please.
I said, "No, let's stop for a minute, okay? Because some people, to be in good relationships with you, maybe you do have to lie, but if people really want it," and this is my response to them was this: I said, "Look, I would like to speak to you my truth, but will you make me pay emotionally for it?
Mm-hmm.
Or as employees, will you make me pay professionally for it?"
Mm-hmm. And
So
that's
when we're
that's the
creating spaces, it's not just safe spaces, but also brave spaces.
mm-hmm.
Because the challenge that we're finding is that we're putting these standards in place, but psychological safety basically comes down to trust. And so it's like,
Exactly.
can we trust you? I've said to organizations in working with me, I said, your integrity is on the line. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I'm here is because you're in trouble. It's sort of funny. For my entire professional career, people only call on me when they're in trouble. They don't call on me and say, we're doing great and we want to just be better. it's so like, it's like, no, we've been successfully messing up. So let's call Nicholas. He can help. So
So the wheels
when
are
you
starting to
have
run off the bus
environments,
for you, and then they call you.
yes. So when we're in environments, and if anybody wants to sort of look at, Amy Edmondson out of Harvard does a neat piece on this, where when she talks about innovation and having environments for innovation, that the challenge you find is when you have an environment that has low trust and high standards, it creates anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, anxiety does not speak to creativity,
Not
innovation, and
at all.
productivity. All right.
At all.
So when you start talking about the wheels are about to fall off, it's sort of like, it might be the wheels, but you've got a broken axle.
Mm. Or twisted chassis. You're running sideways down the street. And we're getting there. We're getting there. Yes, but you can get there so much better with so much less uh stress and conflict happening.
Right.
Like
Right.
under the surface tension.
Sure.
So speak to code switching.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
Because
who else experiences code switching. Like how
oh,
many
that
different everybody, right?
oh, cultures. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I was
Everybody
able to
experiences
be.
code
I had
switching.
the privilege of of being with the Association for Latino Professionals for America,
Yeah.
and it's just interesting how sort of intercultural and even intraculturally how we code switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But what are the
So
dangers of that? So talk about code switching and what the
okay,
dangers
so let's
are.
talk about what it is. What
Yeah.
it means is that as we move across cultural environments, right, that we take on different persona.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this little
And not
video
the
where
alter ego that I
no, no, no,
talk
no,
about.
because remember we are
Not, yeah.
we are
This is a
multifaceted.
protective. This is like a mhm.
We are multifaceted,
Yeah.
right? And because we flow in different places, spaces, and environments. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and so I was raised in Bankhead, but I was educated in Buckhead. So for those who might get that understanding, Bankhead, that's TI, and those kind of folks. So the way you might behave, and it's really all about survival. So code switching is about survival. How do I feel I must behave or act in order to survive?
Be non-threatening.
So we're able to even work with our speech. A comedian group, Key and Peele, they did it with Barack Obama, where Barack Obama is greeting people in a receiving line. And so he's with the persons without color, he's like, pleased to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Persons with color, he's like, what's up, fam?
Yeah, and doing all the yep.
Right. That is an example of code switching. You come into a certain environment, so with mi familia, said, hola, mi familia, ¿qué pasó? ¿Qué lo que? Right? It's like, greetings, good to see you today. I'm glad that you're well.
Yes. So what are the dangers of code switching then?
That is back to what does it cost you? And we don't really talk about the psychic damage that is caused by not being able to be your authentic self. And actually to the extent that, do we even really know who we are? If ever, right?
Right. It's an evolution, but it's what, but like you said, what is it costing you? And is it diminishing your confidence? Like if you have to code switch and it's pulling your confidence away, then it becomes a problem. If your code switching empowers you in that environment, then it's not a problem.
So to your first point, my first thing is about impeding confidence, because then it becomes confident in what, right? That there's sort of this confidence in a nothing, right? A confidence in an illusion. Code switching to your benefit. I think that's perhaps back to a narrative that I might question, right? Because again, code switching to your benefit, that's just a survival mechanism. And it usually is put in traumatic environments. So maybe we shouldn't be in these environments that consistently cause us trauma and cause us to have to not be ourselves.
Okay.
That's back to psychic damage. Because remember, at the root of code switching, it's about a survival mechanism.
It's about survival. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, if you're from day to day just trying to survive, then the damage is going. We should be looking towards, not just surviving, not even just existing, but to thrive. Right. I mean, we use that term for like babies. If you have like babies that are premature and the like, so what does it take in order for them to thrive? Right. The same thing for us as human beings. Right. That our desire is to thrive. And so code switching is like, no, we should be able to be who we are and be in environments where we can bring our full selves and make these contributions. I mean, the reason why so many of us are in entrepreneurial spaces is because we've been in spots where it's like we have to downplay our gifts and graces. No, we're in an entrepreneurial space, and all of a sudden it's like, yes, people will actually pay you to be awesome.
Yeah. Hello. So there's no positive outcome with code switching. Like you can't flip it.
I think it's a short-term strategy.
It's right? Okay.
Because in the long term, what is that price that we're paying?
Yeah.
Okay? But we can think on it. We have those conversations where we just sit back and say, could there be some long-term benefit? And so we do the cost-benefit analysis. And I would say that for the long term, that code switching is a losing proposition.
It's a losing. Okay. Gotcha. So anyone who's thinking that they're actually benefiting from doing it, think twice about it, because you're not being your true authentic self with it. So like, okay, let me give myself as an example on this.
All right.
I don't really look at it as code switching because At first, it started off as survival. My speech pattern, because I was born in Trinidad. I grew up in Australia, so I adopted the accent. I adopted the very quickly because of being teased for speaking the way I was speaking. Then when I moved back from Australia to Trinidad, again, I was teased mercilessly for speaking the way I was speaking. And so I shed the Australian accent as fast as I could while I was in school. And over time, I had shut my voice down for a very long time, not speaking. And it's why I don't really learn languages, for that very reason, not being able to pronounce things well, and I'm being so vulnerable right now, and the fear of being ridiculed for saying a word wrong in a different language. And so my survival mechanism for that was, I need to be able to pronounce words that are so clear and understandable for people so that they don't misinterpret or misunderstand what I'm saying. Now, sometimes a little accent pops in here and there. So some of my little Trini or Aussie little thing might pop in the way I pronounce something. But when I'm talking to my relatives, some of the Trini comes out. When I'm talking to on this podcast, it doesn't come out. But I don't see that for me as code switching, because I actually like the way I speak. I really like my ability to be clear in the way that I speak.
Sure. But here I want you to hear your story, right?
Yeah, I know it came from a trauma. It came from trauma. It
and
totally came from trauma.
So it came
but
from
I
trauma,
don't
part of
feel
survival
like
mechanism.
I'm being inauthentic.
But so now think to what is this, because here's the piece in terms of perspective on life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this: I don't know the spiritual or religious orientation of your audience, but I believe this: God never wastes a hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that experience you now can bring, and it allows you to relate and to connect with different audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it has the ability for you to perhaps help to facilitate in relationship and to help others to feel comfortable.
Because I speak when there are people around me who have thick accents and they feel very self-conscious about the way that their English is being pronounced, and they don't want to speak in public, or they don't want to speak out because of that insecurity. I'm always like, listen, I can't even speak your language, so you're doing better than me. Right? You at least have more than one language.
And so you have a sensitivity to that.
And yeah, I have a huge sensitivity.
Yes.
And I really encourage them. And mine was English all across the board. It was different, just different accents in the same language. So I have a deep sensitivity for anyone who has an accent and feels insecure about it, to help them feel more secure about their
yes. And
their
so
accent.
that is a benefit and a blessing to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to the point that we're making is so for instance, being a person, by virtue of, sometimes people say, well, Nicholas, you're a gentleman. It's like, well, that definition is that you're a person who puts others at ease.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't lead with our credentials. We don't lead with the highbrow speech. We don't lead with all that. We help others to feel comfortable.
Right.
And that's being sensitive. I wouldn't necessarily call that code switching. Code switching, again, is back to survival mechanism in a traumatic environment.
Right.
My question would be, the real question is, what benefit are you getting from staying in that environment?
Yes, exactly.
And then what is it costing you to stay in that environment
and
where you
mentally
can't be yourself? Because again, back to that, a CEO talking to 10 workers that they may not connect with on a daily basis, and say, what does it cost you to be here?
Mm.
What is the psychic damage? What does it do to your soul
Oh my gosh.
to
Yes,
be
to have a
in these
CEO that is
places and
willing.
spaces? Well, that's again back to what are the skills that CEOs need in this season? And so
Hmm.
these are the more of the people use the term soft skills, others say human skills. I'll say these are
Essential
essential
skills.
skills.
These are essential skills. Yeah.
It's like, hey, CEO, it's time for you to be a person,
Yeah.
right? And not just a tool of the board of directors
Yes.
and your shareholders.
Hmm.
And so how is it that we go about doing that? And it even allows CEOs to be authentic.
Hmm. Be people too. Let people see that
Be
you're a
people
people
too.
too.
That's
Yeah.
what the whole Zoom thing did for, I mean, the pandemic did
Yeah.
for us. It's like you're looking in people's bedrooms
And they
with kitchen tables
and
and
the
kids are
kids
coming
and their
in and it's like, no,
animals and
mommy's in a meeting right now.
mommy's a big important CEO. Go away.
But here's the other thing is that mommy CEOs have always had to do that.
Hmm.
But it finally came to the fore where people can say, you know what, love being a CEO, but I love being a mommy too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know
Got
what?
to
Being
blend
mommy
our
perhaps
humanness.
is sometimes more important than being CEO. I really wanted to tell y'all that, but, but now I can do that because there were so many women, and in particular, women of color. My new term is not people of color, it's people with color. I'm sorry, people with color they've made choices, and when so many women left the workforce because of the responsibilities for not only their nuclear families but also extended families and the like,
Parents.
saying we need to
Yeah.
rethink this. And so what is it
Yeah.
so what is it costing you?
Yeah. So inclusion ethics goes way beyond just diversity and inclusion and belonging and equity. It it really does.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. It's looking at us as human beings and what our needs are. What are our needs? And then incorporating those into an environment where everybody can feel like their needs are being met in this space for this particular, like, all right, we're not talking about what you need from your home life, but in the work environment we're talking about. Okay, so don't bring your blanket to work. Like, I see these kids in high school walking with blankets. I'm like, this is not your house. Why are you walking with a blanket to class? Be like a person, get a jacket. Something. In their bedroom slippers and pajamas and blankets coming to school. I mean, I know that's a whole other separate conversation, but what are we teaching them about professionalism when
Well,
they're
here we
allowed to
go.
do things like
It
that?
depends, right? I mean, if you're the kind of person who wrapped up in your blanket and your footy slippers and you code, so what become the norms of professionalism, right? And so these have become conversations about the narratives. I suppose the same question about young people will say, okay, we're doing pictures today. It's like, do I have to wear a jacket? And my question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of beginning with the end in mind. So you're going to dress for the job you want, not for the job that you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what are the quote norms of professionalism in that organization, right?
Right.
So during the pandemic, my son would say my thing was, this is business. I'm going to treat it like it's business, and he would see me, and my thing was collared shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put on a collared shirt. That lets me know that I am going to business and I'm going to do the thing. So I don't end up having those Zoom fails where people not wearing anything below the waist and the like, because that is just part of the mindset. So we start talking about, well, what environment do you want to be in? In what environment can you flourish?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Reminds me
Um,
of The Devil Wears Prada, right? You're working for a fashion magazine and you're dressing however you want to dress. That's not acceptable here.
so
But
now I said, well, here.
here,
So then I think it really becomes an empowering piece for folks as opposed to just sort of saying, it's a, here are the normal professionals. No. The choice is yours, right? To function and to optimize, your presence and your performance and your progression in this environment, there are now choices that are available to you. Now you can exercise those. Now, if that does not work out, then me, who I am, will give you the gift of, I will allow you to exercise your gifts and graces in another venue.
In another venue. Exactly. What is it costing you to be here? And do you have to ask yourself, I think people need to ask themselves that question before somebody else asks them that.
Surely.
What is it costing me to be here?
It doesn't always begin with, it's the whole
I
idea
don't
of,
think
if
a
it
lot
is
of
to be,
people,
it's up to me.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think a lot of people have that self-reflection or take the time to really do that. If they're getting it, they would rather have the paycheck than really think about what it's costing them. I've spoken to so many people who have been in very toxic work environments to the point where it becomes physically debilitating before they do something. And if you stop to ask yourself that question before, you wouldn't get to that place where now you have to go on medical leave because the stress is creating so much havoc with your body, and you're at the point of burnout and you're crying every day to go to work. Don't get to that point. Ask yourself what it's costing you to be in
but here's the other thing too, that's very, very real. And especially in the space where I am right now, that so coming out of 2020, that hired so many diversity, equity, inclusion leaders, right?
Yeah, that was the buzz thing. That was the thing.
And largely women with color. Right?
Yes, we're getting the jobs. Yeah.
We're getting the jobs, and I'm like, yay, go sis, go. I love it. They're doing that. But the recent thing just came out. Talk about that. 3 DEI leaders at Princeton resigned. Why? They weren't providing the supports. And so what kind of questions are people asking? This is the conversation that I have with folks all the time. They're like, oh, I have this opportunity to get this job. I said, oh, here's some questions you need to ask. So first of all, where is your role within the organizational structure? Okay, what type of power do you have? What type of accountability do you have? What type of support do you have?
And influence.
A friend of mine has oversight over an organization that has, I think, 1.8 million folks. Guess what? She's the DEI person for that organization. She only just got an assistant 90 days ago.
Wow.
So you're doing DEI for organization 1.8.
No resources whatsoever.
1.8. Right? And so knowing that up front would be like, well, do I get an assistant? Do I get a budget? Do I have the ability to make my own decisions? If I want to bring, a consultant or coach or whatever, do I have that type of authority to go through? What happens when your procurement system is, a model of the injustice that you're trying to fight in the institution? Those types of conversations.
Yes. Wow, Nicholas, this is so much. We've unpacked a lot here. And I mean, such great insight, such tangible things that people can look at in their organization to see, from their diversity supplier chain, all the way from the top all the way down. Let me just say that
Yes.
So as an individual contributor, you have a responsibility as well to understand what being in that role is costing you, and whether you go to HR or you go to your manager or your leader or something and help them to understand what is going on. That is your responsibility as well. And don't just look for leadership to provide the opportunity for that to happen to you. You need to be able to also be self-directed to do something if you feel like injustice is happening. And if it's costing you too much, walk away. I mean, it's a hard thing to do when you're getting a paycheck and things are a little tight, but in the long run, how much more is it going to cost you in health?
Sure. And in that, the word is exit strategy.
Create an exit strategy for yourself that doesn't
create an exit strategy, not just the
I'm
Just
out.
out.
I'm out.
Right?
I'm out of here.
It's
Yeah.
exit strategy. How do you intend to transition yourself from one spot to another?
And
Right?
not lose. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we do still have responsibilities, right?
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
we've got parents, pets, partners, and progeny, and they're counting on us. So how do we do that and do that well?
And as leaders, this show is about leading with audacious confidence. You can't just pin a title on someone and think that's you've done enough. That it doesn't work that way. We all have to work together, give them the tools, the resources, the ability to do the job effectively with confidence, and you need to be a part of the process.
Yes, and ask, what will this role look like, and what's the outcome that we seek?
Back to start with the end in mind. What are we looking
trying
to?
not to get sued again? Well,
Right.
you know what? Look,
Are we really wanting to build a really inclusive culture?
Right. If you've already undermined trust in your organization, don't you think your first task might be
Yeah.
so your managers have sued you
Call
and now
Nicholas.
you've lost. Well, maybe I need to work on rebuilding trust with these people so that they don't think that, oh, this is just a court-ordered action.
Right. Right. Listen, and we have so many tools as consultants, as coaches. We have so many tools to help organizations really understand how to go about doing this successfully. And that's what I'm hoping this show can bring to light for some organizations, is to see the different opportunities that are out there, and great opportunities from people who know what they're doing, and not just a $99 certificate saying, yes, check the box, I got it.
I have a certificate. And so in terms of audacious confidence, leaders, they need that, right?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
what happens if your leader has a value system that's not embraced, or they don't feel that will be embraced by the organization if they feel that they were to make that known. Understand the views of leaders on social issues. It can affect the stock price.
Big time. We're seeing that happen. We're seeing
that are playing out in people's minds, right? And what is it that not just your shareholders, but your stakeholders, right? How is it? And those considerations that come into mind. There's a tool that recently came out about, well, how do you balance share and stakeholder concerns? My whole thing, the word balance, I think was just created by folks to torment us. I think we have to say, what is the appropriate role of this in my life?
Yeah.
Right. So work-life balance. No, I have life, and there are these different components that speak to my life.
Yeah.
And what role do they play and when?
Yeah.
Right. But
exactly.
Trying to find so many hours, no, that's not going to work for you. So in making a decision, as a matter of fact, somebody had actually asked me that. So I'm putting together a piece on perhaps what are our principles, for decision making in this regard, because that's where I think really helps folks, where we know who we are, what it is we're about, what we hope to achieve, so that we can lead from this essential core. And that's what being audacious is about, because everybody else is being fake. They're trying to be somebody else. It's like, friends, be yourself. Everybody else is taking it.
Let's first discover who that is. That's why I have my 7 steps to audacious confidence. Let's discover who that is, and then be that. Yeah. Let's be that. Yeah.
Because why? Everybody else is taken.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love it. So that will transition us into our rapid fire. I thank you so much. But before I jump into rapid fire, I know you're scared. Don't be scared. Before I jump into rapid fire, tell people how they can reach you. And I can spell inclusionetics for them, but I want you to spell inclusionetics for them so that they can look it up.
Let's make it easy on folks and say, look, NicholasHarveyConsulting.com.
And Nicholas Harvey Consulting. But I wanted to spell inclusionetics because I'm so proud of myself for saying it right.
You did an awesome job, but it's NQC.
NQC.
LUS. IONETICS, Inclusionetics. But you will find that on the website as a tab under
Yes.
NicholasHarveyConsulting.com.
Go to NicholasHarveyConsulting.com. All right. Brace yourself. Here we go. Deep breaths, deep breaths. So, Nicholas, what is the biggest mistake that you ever did in leading others? What was your biggest mistake?
Trusting too soon. I think that people are trustworthy once they've been found to be worthy of trust.
And you've trusted too soon.
I have such great confidence in humans. I just do.
Me too.
And
I just
and the orientation was this of trying to really bless people and being so on and so forth. And it's sort of like, no, stop it. You need to, make a decision, hold people to standards, make sure people are clear about the standards. And if it's time for them to exercise their gifts and graces in another venue, then be quick to do so. And move on.
Yeah. So what's the best leadership advice you've ever gotten that you still institute today?
You can always afford to be gracious.
Oh, that's nice. See, this isn't so hard, right? All right. So here's a curveball. If you were a castaway on a desert island and you can only bring three things, or three things could either wash up on shore or airdrop to you, and one cannot be a cell phone, what would those three things be?
So I'm on a desert island. I can get three things?
Three things, yeah. Airdropped.
Okay. Airdropped. I need a Learjet, some fuel, and provisions. I'm getting off the island. I'm not staying.
I'm not staying. Not even a boat. I want a Learjet.
No, I want a jet.
Not a helicopter or
No. I need something that will get. I don't know what island I'm on, and I don't know how far it is to get me. So a helicopter can run out of fuel. So give me a Learjet.
Get me out fast.
With some fuel.
A runway or nothing. Not even like a seaplane that can either. You have no runway. Well, anyway, that's not. I'm not here to throw any obstacles in your way. You want a Learjet, you get a Learjet.
Please notice, I'm just castaway on an island. That's not me. I'm out. Got things to do.
I love it. I'm not staying. So if you were a song that's out there in the world, a song or a song title, what would it be and why?
To God be the glory for the things that God has done. Because we don't do it by ourselves. Right? And so, there's a scripture that says that God has done these things and is wonderful in our eyes. So that's why we do what we do. It's really not about us.
Yeah.
We're giving glory to our Creator, and we're blessed to be a blessing, and that's how we serve.
Yay. I love that. So what are you reading now, or what are your three top favorite books?
Oh, right now. So, Omri Johnson just came out with Reconstructing Inclusion. So recommend that one. He did a fine job.
What is the author?
Omri, Amri Johnson. Omri Johnson did Reconstructing Inclusion. Came through Atlanta on his book tour, and shared that excellent piece. I love what it is that he's doing right now. Currently, right now, I'm also reading Working with the Law by Hollowell. Doing that one. And so I'm revisiting a lot of the sort of universal law, universal principle stuff, right? Because I think that's the core out of which we can sort of make our decisions and we shape and craft our lives.
Yeah. So I'm actually into Thomas Stroud right now.
Okay.
All those writings from way, way early on universal law and the mind.
Right.
And and how it connects to biblical principles. And
yes,
yeah, it's
So I'm enjoying
fascinating.
revisiting that, because I think that's so important, that we understand that we shape and frame our worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we can then have impact in the lives of others.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for your graciousness today
Oh, I'm
and
honored. I'm
sharing.
honored by your invitation.
Yeah, it's been a rich and wonderful conversation. I really hope people listen to the entire thing, because it was so awesome. Thank you, Nicholas, Dr. Nicholas Harvey, for being our guest today. Any last thoughts as we wrap?
The world is equally balanced between good and evil, and your next act might just tip the scale. Blessings.
And with that, I encourage you to lead yourself, lead your teams, and lead your organization with audacious confidence. I will see you next time on another episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. Bye, everybody.